Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Amber Black Chats. We are in our Redemptive Grace series. Today, we're going to be in episode 8 called Hard Work, which I think anyone who is listening will have something to add to this one for sure, because we all are having to put in that hard work somewhere in our life, whether it's at home, with our relationships, at work, whatever. So I hope that there's something that speaks to your heart and today, and that you're encouraged and challenged. So as always, we're going to start with a passage, and I know I've used this one before, but it's a big one, kind of in my personal walk, and it's one that God reminds me of frequently. And so we're going to be in Colossians 3:23 to kick off our time together. Whatever you do, work at it with all your heart, as working for the Lord, not for men. In the past, I've used this as an example for my approval struggle, like where I feel like I have to have the approval of people, perfectionism, those kind of things, which God is really lessening that burden of in my heart and mind, and I don't feel that pull like I used to. So in those times, I would be focused on the working as for the Lord, not for men. But for today's context, I'm thinking of the first part of the verse, whatever you do, work at it with all your heart. I am a firm believer in that. I don't do anything halfway. I actually get really frustrated if I start a task and I can't do it at my best. I get really frustrated, and I have to learn how to choose what to say yes to and what to say no to. There could be a lot of great things out there that I could do and be part of, but if I can't give it the attention that it deserves, it wouldn't be getting my best, and so I wouldn't be able to give it what it needs. So sometimes I have to say no to things, even if they're great things, because I would need to be able to put my whole heart into it. And so the things that I do take on, I do with my whole heart, not for myself, not for men, but I really feel like whatever gifts God has given us, whatever skill sets that He has given us, that it's up to us to give it our all, to use our whole heart, our whole mind, our whole skill set to do our best for Him, for His glory, and to reach people, to bring Him glory. So hard work is something I think we all have stories about. We all have experienced. Maybe you have someone in your past that really modeled that strong work ethic for you. Maybe you didn't. Maybe you have had to be the person like to pull yourself up by your own bootstraps and figure out how to work hard to get things going in your life. Whatever it is, whatever the relationship you have with work, we all have a link to it. So when I was growing up, and I've touched on this in other episodes, but our family, a big family, there's my parents, and then there were 4 kiddos, and my parents really worked hard. As I've gotten older, and as I've been a working mom, and taking on all the tasks that come with running a house and raising kids and being married and working, I have a different appreciation for what my parents did and how they lived their life when we were younger. Both of my parents worked really, really, really hard. They got married when they were young, but even when they got married, my mom had an in-home daycare. So she got married and started a business in her own home. When I was born, I was part of that in-home daycare. Like, she figured out how could she work and be with her daughter. I think that's really incredible. My daddy went to a local community school and graduated and was a machinist. And he worked really hard. He worked at a plant and, worked long hours, worked a hard, like physically demanding job. When, as I grew up, and as each of the kiddos came along, my youngest brother was born with some medical problems. And when that happened, of course, like medical bills are a real thing, and those started piling up. But my parents really believed in giving us better than what they had. I think every parent does that. I think we all, once we become a parent, we're like, we want to give our kids better or more or different than what we had growing up. And my parents worked really, really hard to give us a safe place and a good education. And so they chose for us to go to a private school, a church school. But what was really special is that Mama worked at the school, because if she worked at the school, she'd get a break in tuition for all of us. And so I remember her working as a librarian, and then the preschool teacher. So she always would figure out a way to where she could be with her kids, to where we could be in a good place, in a safe place, learning values and strong morals and things like that. And in the meantime, my daddy would work 2 jobs to help take care of us and provide. And they did not want to be in debt. They worked really, really hard all the time to take care of all the things. And this was, I was born in 81. And so the late 80s, anyone who's a history person knows like the economic crazy that happened during that time. And during that time is when things happened in the economy and in the job world, where my dad lost his machinist job, which was a good job that took care of us, but he, that job went by the wayside and he was let go. So that's when he started working multiple jobs to help figure things out. And so because of that, my parents had a very, very high expectations for education, and had very, it was very important to them that the 4 of us would get a good education. And so that started off at the little church school that we went to. And I have a lot of fun memories there. I give it a hard time because it was very legalistic, and I would not have done really well all the way through. I feel like out of the 4 of us, only one of us would have survived there, K through 12. But yeah, it's God's goodness that we didn't stay there, because some of us could not, with my struggle with perfectionism and this messed up view of the gospel where I felt like I had to earn it, I would have just been a mess there. So I'm grateful that things changed in our lives. When I was in 6th grade, when I started 6th grade, my mom started back to school. And so my mama would work all day, and she would work at the school where my sister and my brothers were. And I was at middle school. So I started my 6th grade year. I went from a little tiny church school that had 18 to 20 kids in my class to a middle school where in 6th grade, I think there were 5 different 6th grade homerooms. And I knew a handful of people from church, and it was very overwhelming. I'm not going to lie and say, oh, it was just such an easy fit. I was a weirdo. I dressed different. I didn't understand a lot of pop culture context stuff. There were a couple girls who just really made fun of me because of how I dressed or how I talked or whatever. And I wanted so badly to be accepted. And there was but middle school's hard on everybody. Everybody has a hard time in middle school. But I'm so grateful, because that's also where I had some of my best teachers and favorite teachers were in middle school, where I met people that would become my friends for the rest of my life. So really a lot of beautiful things happened, and I would not have survived in the elementary school. I wouldn't have survived in that environment. I would have gone off the rails one way or another. However, my mama was working. So my mom was working full time during the day and then going to school at night. And then my daddy was working 2 or 3 jobs. And all the time that they're doing these things to get, for my mom to get her degree so she can become a teacher. For my daddy, it was all about to provide for us so that we could take piano lessons, so that the boys could play soccer, so that my sister and I could go on trips with our youth group or whatever. And so they worked really hard to provide for us. And I do wish, we all could look back and wish things right about when we were little. And I do wish we had more time together as a family, just because. But as an adult, I look back and I see all the sacrifices my parents were making with their time, with their finances. Like, I don't know when they slept. I don't know if they slept. I don't know. They worked so hard all the time, both my mama and my daddy. And like I mentioned last week, my grandmama lived across the street and helped take care of us. And so, as these three adults are the people in the forefront of my life, they're the ones who are building this really strong work ethic in my heart and in my brain. My daddy would teach us how to use like the lawnmower, the weed eater, that kind of stuff. He had, tasks and expectations for the outside work. My mama taught us how to do laundry, how to clean the house, how to keep things organized. Grandmama taught us a little bit of everything and how to cook and all this. So from young ages, we were given tasks and opportunities to work really hard. But I will tell you, I think that those things are what have shaped all four of us and why all four of us have the lives we have now. Is because we're not afraid of work. We're not afraid of challenges. We are thrifty and frugal. We've just been taught some really great life skills. And a lot of the things I learned from my parents and my grandmama, I have tried to teach to my kids, because I want them to work hard and earn things and to bust out of this mentality that because I am whatever, I'm entitled to something. Like, no, we're not entitled to anything. And when people say like, I deserve this, or, deserve, like, no, if we look at the Bible and we look at the condition of our hearts and minds, like, we don't deserve much because we're at the root, we are messed up. And so if we got what we deserved, we'd be in a horrible state. So we need to have that balance of working hard, and earning the things, right? Earning trips, earning money, whatever, but not to take that same mentality into our salvation, which is where I messed up, where I felt like I had to keep working and performing and working and performing to be accepted by God and to be loved by God. And that is where that gift of grace has so much freedom, where I can keep working and trying and learning and striving, and God will bless me for those things. But I don't have to be perfect to be loved by God. So sidebar, because it can get tangled up in your head when you're trying to do all of these things. Our family was just we are such a weird little family. So my youngest brother was sick. My other brother was like an accident waiting to happen. Like all the time, he was busting his head open. He ripped both ears off 2 different occasions. One occasion lost this ear. One occasion lost another ear. Multiple times cracked it, like ran into things or whatever. He's in the ER all the time. Then when my youngest brother got more mobile and he became accident prone, my sister and I would get sick all the time. We got mono from my Andrea went on a mission trip. She got mono. I drank after her. I got mono. And after mono is when my health just went crazy, and I'm still dealing with stuff now. And so like, I know how much it costs for me to go to the doctor now. And I was just thinking, man, if I had 4 kids, all who were either sickly or accident prone, oh my gosh, the medical bills must have been astronomical for my parents. It's funny because our parents worked really hard, but I never knew we didn't have a lot. Like that was never in my like frame of reference as a child. I thought hand-me-downs were normal. I like that. I didn't realize until I think I was in 9th or 10th grade, a lady in our church gave, and this is weird, but I remember it very vividly, gave my boyfriend's mom an envelope of money to take me shopping for back to school. And I didn't understand what was happening. And the lady was super sweet. They're a super sweet lady. And she just wanted to love me and love our family. But like, I had no idea, like that we needed extra money because my parents didn't tell us that part of it. They didn't tell us about like financial stuff. They just worked really, really hard. We didn't take big vacations. We would go see my aunt and uncle in Charlotte, and that would always be a super fun vacation. I know that my mom and my siblings went to the beach with my aunt one time. I remember the thing that like changed my life was we went to Disney World one time when I was really little. All four of us got to go, and that's what like gave me the Disney bug and started my obsession with probably vacations and vacation planning, because it was just so magical and everyone acted like everyone was out from under that pressure of work, and everyone was like childlike and silly and fun together. So it's a week of really sweet memories in my head. But I just didn't know as a child that we were lacking anything. And I just kind of took for granted that we had what we needed because of my parents. And as an adult, I know now my parents were working all the time and sacrificing all the time to provide a great life for the four of us. But I will say that my parents did instill in us this work ethic that went beyond the four walls of our home. My parents worked so much that they weren't available a lot, but when they were available, they were making sure we were helping other people. That was very important to my parents, and I love that was modeled for me and taught to me, because I think that is something that is lacking in our world today. Everyone is out for self, and you know, you're fighting against the culture to think outside of your home and to think outside of me. And my parents, with the little bit of free time they had, were sacrificially giving it to other people. So we would go with my parents or with my grandmama to someone's home, and we would do yard work or we would do housework. We would, you know, my mom would fix food, and we didn't have a lot. Like looking back, knowing how we had so little and she made it work to take care of us, whatever we had, we shared with others. That was so important to my parents. Whether it was people within our extended family or in our church family, or people my parents would meet at their jobs, we were always doing for others. And we weren't doing for others in like hopes of some kind of like a pat on the back or acknowledgement. My mom was actually really opposed to that. She really modeled, as did my daddy, like, you go in, you do the work, you're sweet, you're kind, and whatever, but you back out, and it's not about praise. It's not about accolades. It's not about a thank you card. It's about, you need something, we can help you with it. God's given us health and energy and this and that. And so we would do it. And that's something that, you know, that's something from my parents that it's important to me, and I've passed on to my kids. And so they just know it. They know if something comes up, somebody has something going on, we're going to figure out a way to love on them under the radar or not, but we're going to love on people, because that's what my parents taught me. And most importantly, it's what Jesus modeled for us in the Bible. Over and over again, we see him loving people and loving people well. And we have verses like Colossians 3:23 that remind us to do our best, use our heart, use those gifts, use those skills to love people for the glory of God. And I think that's what my parents really were teaching us and modeling for us. The same with my grandmama, like she was part of that as well. All three of them were really, really big on that. And that hard work didn't just look like manual labor in our home. It applied to our academics. It applied to our extracurriculars. So that's where the struggles that I had was like being able to give my best and work my hardest. And I didn't understand, like, if my hardest was like here, but somebody else's was here, that it was okay. Like, I did not resonate that. I felt like I had to be the best at all the things, and I just couldn't be, because I wasn't the best at all the things. And I really struggled with that. But my parents wanted us to, like with our academics, is like work hard. Some of us were better students than others. Some of us, like my sister, had some extra challenges in the classroom. My youngest brother missed a lot of days when he was little because of stuff. And so it's like, but there were no excuses. It was nope, figure it out, use your tools, use your resources, and work your hardest. And so, like, if we didn't do well academically, there would be consequences to that. But my mama would be in conversation with our teachers, so she knew if we were being lazy, or if we hadn't turned in an assignment, or if we were doing our best, and that's where it was. For me, with my daddy, that became like a tricky thing because, a B, well, why wasn't it an A, instead of like, I know this subject was really hard for you. Good job on getting the B. And so that kind of was a hard thing for me to navigate younger. And again, now looking back, I know that it's just because my daddy really valued education, because his education maxed out, and because he didn't have an education in a time where having a degree really mattered to get promoted or to get certain jobs. He didn't want me or my siblings to ever be in the place where we couldn't take care of ourselves because of lack of an education. So I don't think anything that any expectation he put out there for me or whatever was like malicious. I just think that it was out of a place of like, you have to work hard so that you can take care of yourself later. But in my young mind, I didn't understand that. And I just like, that's where I kind of got started in that like performance mentality and this working for approval. Working for approval over doing my best to the Lord. I did not have that straight in my mind. And I think that he just so badly wanted all four of us to have a better life than he had growing up, and that we wouldn't have to struggle when we were older, because my parents didn't complain about school and work and the hard things they did. They didn't complain about it. But, as an adult, I look back, I'm like, how were they not, like, how did they function? It makes no sense to me, knowing the schedule that they both kept, and having 4 kids, and being active in their church. Like, how did they function? So I'm learning a lot about my parents as an adult now, because God is allowing me to see where I am in my stage of life, and reminding me that grace is so important, and that everyone's journey and story is different. And that's okay. That's totally okay. But it also, the good and the bad of my childhood and stuff shaped who I am now. And God's using that, and he's still using my parents in my life he's still using my parents now to shape who I am now. And I just think that's God's goodness, isn't it? Isn't it beautiful that he's not done with us? Like, you turn 18 and you're supposed to be a grown up. Thank God that he's not like, yeah, you're 18 and now you've got to have it figured out. He's like so gracious and kind to give us what we can handle when we can handle it. I couldn't have understood and thought about a lot of these concepts that I'm working through now about my upbringing had I not gotten to this place in my life to be a 42-year-old adult and look at where I am in life, what I've been through, how it's shaped me, gives me a different lens to look at my parents. And ultimately, I am so grateful to have parents who modeled how important it was to work hard, to earn what's yours, and to love people well, and to sacrificially love people well. What invaluable lessons and tools. I mean, how beautiful. So what I appreciate from my parents is that while it was that work ethic was really important in all the ways, it burst out of our home. It wasn't just locked in our home. And then it brings me to a place of conviction. And this is something forever that I'm working through. And part of it is like, if I have a task for my job, Like we recently had kids camp, which is like our vacation Bible school. And I'm all in for that thing. It's my job and I'm all in and I'm going to give it my best. I'm going to give it my all. But I would wake up at 2:00 in the morning with an idea, or I would stay up till 2:00 in the morning, like fine tuning things or whatever. I mean, I'm going to give my job my all. I love my job. I love that God has me there, and I'm going to give it my all. When it comes to my kids, if they need me, I put things to the side and I give my kids my all. I try to give my husband my all. I try to do everything with my whole heart. Everything with my whole heart until it comes to my spiritual walk. And that is where I'm having to be challenged by the Lord. I'm having to deal with some discipline from the Lord, because I can give my all to all these things, and that those things keep me busy, keep me going, keep me moving, and they're all really important. But I will sit down to read scripture and check my clock, check my phone, like what time is it? Have I done this long? Or I will pray and start off conversational and like plugged in, and then my brain will start drifting to a to-do list or a task list or something like that. I'm like, oh, shame on me. Recently in our staff meetings at my job, we were issued the challenge to just sit in silence for a time period and just listen, just to sit and listen and to be quiet. And I struggled so greatly with that. Partially because I don't like the things that are in my head when I am alone and quiet. All of my fears and insecurities and inadequacies tend to blow up in my head when I'm quiet. When I'm home alone, I will have TVs going or music going or something. Like, I don't do alone well. I just don't. I think about all my kids are getting ready for their next stage of life. And so my house is going to sound a whole lot different. And I'm like, cool. So can my nephews come and live with me for a little while? Can we figure out how to get some extra people in the house? Because I just don't do well. But I'm learning that there was a season in my life a long time ago where the quiet was what reintroduced me to Jesus. And the quiet is what gave me that window to start learning about his grace and had such freedom. I gained such freedom during that time. So now in this phase of my life, I'm hesitant to the quiet because I'm fearful of what's coming up next. I'm fearful of not having my kids in my home anymore. And I'm letting that fear, which we know is from the enemies, not from God, I'm letting that dictate quiet time. And so I can put all my work, all my heart into so many things, but it comes to my quiet time, I'm like, I'm going to do what I have to do so I can get back to the noise, so I can get back to the busyness. Oh my goodness, how far off track am I? So I know that's what my struggle is right now. So I am intentionally having to put some things in place where I am making myself like carving out time and be like, here's the deal. No phone, no computer, really like no music, nothing that can distract me from letting the quiet happen in my heart and in my mind, because I know that the Lord will meet me there. But I also know that my sin struggles will meet me there. So it's a battle, right? It's a battle for our heart and for our mind. So what do I do when I feel overwhelmed? Is I go to the scripture. I have to. When I'm in God's word and I really take my time to read it, reflect on it, say it over and over again, when I allow God to speak to me through his living, breathing word, when I will allow the quiet and hone in, man, he always restores my soul. I don't know why I fight it so much. There's that part in that Paul says in the New Testament where he's like, I know what I do is wrong, but I still do it. Like, that's where I am. It's like, I know what I'm doing is wrong, but I'm still having a really hard time just like letting the quiet come, letting the Lord speak to me. I don't know if it's because I'm afraid of what he's going to reveal to me. I don't know if it's because I'm afraid I can't be quiet. I don't know. There's just a lot going on in my head and my heart. But thankfully, his word, he knew we were going to have these battles. It's like he knew. And so we're going to spend a little bit of time in the Proverbs, okay? Proverbs are so beautiful. They're like, so many are like one line, like zingers, like jabs. They can hurt, they can sting, but they come with some real truth. And so we're going to spend some time in the Proverbs to see how that can, we're going to look at what the Bible says about work, and then we're going to figure out how can we use that same work ethic that we take to everything else in our life, how we can take that and apply it to our spiritual life. So first we're going to be in Proverbs 12:11. All right. Proverbs 12:11 says, "Whoever works his land will have plenty of bread, but he who follows worthless pursuits lacks sense." Proverbs doesn't pull any punches. It's pretty like, don't be an idiot, but in biblical terms. So this is pretty self-explanatory. Whoever works his land will have plenty of bread. Work hard, you'll have what you need to take care of yourself. But he who follows worthless pursuits lacks sense. I think my grandmama probably loved the Proverbs because she would say something like that I lacked sense, and she wasn't wrong, I'm sure. Basically, work hard so you can take care of yourself, so you can have food for your table, so you can pay your bills. If you're trying to find the easy way out, following worthless pursuits, you are not being smart. I know that hurts, but it's the Bible. Proverbs 12:24 says, "The hand of the diligent will rule, while the slothful will be put to forced labor." Ugh. And again, this talks about when you are, the way I read it is the hand of the diligent will rule. Like, I'll be able to take care of what I need to take care of. Like, I don't need to take care of a lot, but I have my little home, my little family, my little kingdom, my little job. Work hard. I can take care of those things. If I'm going to be slothful or whatever, then I'm going to end up having to work harder under someone else's mandates or whatever. And when we know people like that, maybe we've been in that position where we've had to do grunt work or things we didn't love or tasks we didn't love because we haven't put in the other things that we're supposed to do. That's a tricky thing, and it's a hard thing. All right, let's keep going through Proverbs. Proverbs 13:4 said, "The soul of the sluggard craves and gets nothing, while the soul of the diligent is richly supplied." We know what that means. A sluggard is someone who is just lazy. They're not putting in the work. The soul of the diligent is richly supplied. Yeah, I think that's what I'm living in. Is I have been richly supplied because of this work ethic that was modeled and taught to me, and that I've taught and modeled for my children. I think we're living in some kind of grace and goodness and God's gifts right now, because of hard work, because of doing everything unto Him. All right, Proverbs 14:23 says, In all toil there is profit, but mere talk tends only to poverty." Let your actions and your words meet up. You can't just talk and expect things to happen. You have to put in the work. We know this. We've lived it. We know. Proverbs 16:3 says, "Commit your work to the Lord, and your plans will be established." That one's probably my favorite. As we work and we're working to Him, He is faithful, and He gives us what we need, and provides for us in really unique and special ways. It might not look like dollar signs. It might not look like a check in the bank, but He always provides for His people. He is faithful to those who are faithful to Him. So this is the thing, is I've gotten grief before about how busy I am. And what I'm learning and what I'm trying to do is not be busy, but to work hard. And we are learning, my husband and I are learning how to put a Sabbath in place in our home, and a day where we do nothing but rest and restore and recoup. So we are learning, and I'm not an advocate for busyness for the sake of busyness. I don't like that either. But I do think that our culture really has lost that work ethic mentality, of earning things, of putting in the work and then living in the profit of it. There's so, we live in this world where like influencers and things like that. There's all these, like, if I scroll on Instagram, I have so many ads about do this thing and make this much money in 5 hours or whatever. So it's like everything is designed in our culture right now to go fast, to put in the least amount of effort but get the biggest reward. And it's really countercultural to think, like, people think it's old school to work hard. Like, no, put in the work and God will bless you. Right. So knowing the struggle that I have of like making my spiritual walk, giving it that same level of a heart work ethic as I do other things, I wrote up a little like discipline plan, and there's so many different spiritual discipline plans out there. This is not like a new idea at all. It's really just kind of like a way to help me make sure I'm doing the things that I need to do to take care of my spiritual walk. And so I just want to share that with you and encourage you to pick and choose from this as you like and put something in place for you so that you're not only working hard at your job or working hard as a parent or working hard as a grandparent or whatever the tasks are that you're doing, that you're not just working so hard that you're busy and you're neglecting your spiritual walk. So let's look at some ways we can help strengthen and take care of our spiritual health. So for me, because I am a task-oriented person, sometimes having set time to do something is really important. I know that there are people who can get up really early, people who stay up late. Sometimes my best time of prayer is driving. It takes me a while to drive to and from my job, and I oftentimes that's the quietest my life will be. So I will intentionally not play anything in the car, and that's when I will really pray and really listen. Now, I can't be completely relaxed and quiet because I'm operating a vehicle, but it is a good time for like the conversational piece of prayer where I can really just talk to God while I'm driving and listen, but I know I still need to carve out that special time without any distractions where I can really listen to the Lord speak. So just figuring out what that time is for you, because you know your life situation. When are you going to be able to be like focused? When are you going to be able to like pay attention? If you're not a morning person, then the morning might not be the best time for you. If you fall asleep at 7:30 or 8, you're like tired at 8, then maybe you shouldn't design to have a quiet time at 7:30 because you might already be tired. So figuring out a time where you can set aside time to be in the Word, to pray, to worship, whatever the thing is that you need to do that day, making that a set time. The next thing I say is like, use what you like. I am forced to use technology, i.e. all of this. This is not my happy place. My happy place is a notebook and a pen, or a pencil. Actually, I prefer a pencil. That's my happy place. My happy place is my big study Bible. It's not convenient. It is super heavy. It's really hard to teach with that Bible, but it is my favorite Bible. And I would rather be in a place with my Bible and a notebook and a pencil. And that's what works for me. Now, other people are all about the apps and the reminders and the techie stuff. If that's what helps you stay on track or get on track, then do it. There's so many apps with devotions that will send you something each day. If that's what works for you, do it. If using the Bible app on your phone is what works, do it. Use it. Whatever the thing is, use what you like because you. I would just encourage you, write down questions, type up questions. Sometimes when I have a hard time focusing, shocker, to pray, I will write out my prayers, because if I have a pencil in my hand and a notebook under my other hand and I am writing, I am focused on my words. So sometimes I need that extra help to hone in and to focus. So use what you like. You know what you like. Don't feel like you have to do to do things that other people do or use what other people do. Don't be bullied into technology. If you want to resist technology, like me, but if you like technology, good for you. Enjoy that, whatever. Have an accountability partner. This one is really important, and I think for me, like life-changing, is having one person or two people that you are okay with, that they have freedom and permission to ask you spiritual questions. Hey, what are you reading God's word right now? Hey, how can I pray for you this week? Hey, here's how you can pray for me this week. Where they can check in on you, ask uncomfortable questions, and where you can be transparent with them about your walk. Not everybody has to know everything all the time. Okay, you just don't. I feel like I feel a call to be transparent and authentic. That's where I am right now. Until God removes that from me, I'm kind of like living in this kind of exposed life. But you don't have to do that. You can just have that one person or two people where you can be your true self and say, this is my sin struggle right now. This is what I just learned in God's word. Or, hey, have you ever read this? Can we do this together? Like that spiritual friendship is so important. All right, the next thing I would do is I would have some kind of plan. Some people, like there's a gazillion Bible studies out there. Those are great. Those are great tools to help get the ball rolling. Some people like to do like word studies. That's something I really enjoy, but I'm super nerdy, so that might not be for everybody. But I love like finding a word or like a word that means something to me and just learning more about it in the Bible. And my resources are the Bible. So I recently did one, or last year, did a study on the word joy, and it was really, really encouraging and amazing, and it's beautiful. Sometimes we can do stuff. There's so many resources. There are Bible studies on every topic. There are Bible studies on, books of the Bible. I would recommend there's a site called Right Now Media. It's kind of like Christian Netflix as far as Bible studies aplenty by really great teachers, and they have video options. Some come with lesson plans. Maybe if you're not somebody who can listen to a Bible study, you have to watch. That would be a good way to get involved is watching a Bible study. I'd say, however you're studying the Bible, have the ability to write things out, where you can write out questions, where you can circle things you don't understand, where you can highlight things that stand out to you and speak to you. If you're brand new to reading the Bible, my encouragement is to start. I know the Bible's kind of put together weird because you have the Old Testament and the New Testament, and I have some friends that I'm doing some discipleship with that like started in Genesis. There's nothing wrong with starting in Genesis, but once you get to like Leviticus, it might hurt you a little bit. It might be like, why am I reading this? So my encouragement is to actually start in the New Testament, to start with Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. Those are the Gospels. Those are the books of the Bible that will show you the life of Jesus and where you can read Jesus's words. That's where I would start. I also think that reading the Psalms is also a great place to read beautiful words, to if you're having a hard time praying, to borrow some words from other people. Use the words from the Psalms. They are so beautiful, so strong. If you don't feel confident taking on that by yourself, I would encourage you to join a Bible study group. I know our church offers several different studies throughout the year. Even if it's a topic or something that maybe you're not like really excited about, just going and joining a group can help you build some rhythms in your life to help you grow that spiritual journey, that spiritual discipline. And the last thing that I would encourage is that if you're not already, that you be part of be an active part, not just like a Sunday morning, warm the pew, warm the seat person, but be an active part of a gospel-centered, Jesus-following church. So this is important because there are a lot of churches in the world. Not all of them are focused on the gospel. There are a lot of churches in the world that might have the Christian phrasing around them, but they don't follow Jesus, where they see Jesus as a teacher and a leader and a good man, but where they're following somebody else. Jesus is true. God's word is true. These are the only things. Everything else, we have to be careful about who we follow. We just need to be following Jesus. We need to be studying his word. So if you are looking for a church and you don't have any ideas, if you reach out, I will help you, like give you some names of some churches that are gospel centered and Jesus following. But if you are part of a church, I would challenge you, like, are you plugged in at your church? Are you actively involved? I would ask you to look over this time and be like, what is something that I'm giving my whole heart to? Am I giving that same effort to my time with the Lord? I'm not. That's what I'm working on. So be real honest. I am not. But I am working on it. And I have some people placed in my life who are challenging me and helping me with this certain thing that I'm struggling with right now, which is being quiet and being still. So I would challenge you to look at your life, reflect, what can you be doing different to work toward with your whole heart towards your relationship with the Lord, the same way that you work towards your relationship with your spouse or your children or your best friend. Are you giving the Lord that same attention and worship from all your heart? Thank you so much for listening. And as always, if there was something that was encouraging, I ask that you would like this, subscribe, share, all those techie social media things, just so we can share God's love and his hope with other people. All right. Have a great day. Bye.